Da da da! What's my good chair? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes, get those notifications out. In the meantime, if you've never met me before, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And if you give me 1 second here, I'm going to switch back to the lighting that I had last night. I was trying something out just to see if it would help out on the reflective on my glasses, and it doesn't make a difference. And I see the big moon on my beautiful bear stat print, and so we're just going to turn this off, and that's the part of it. It is in that experimentation, it is in that trying different things out and searching out for yourself, not just relying on what other people say, you know, and sometimes, people are kind of iffy about making change. It's really funny because I was thinking before I came live today, I said, what do I want to talk about tonight? Kind of want to talk about experience, and I want to talk about change. And I always want to talk about those two things because I believe that's what is going to ignite us and bring us purpose in our life, right? And do it in a way that it feels like a mission. It doesn't feel like something scary, right? Because we always have to feel like we're being taken care of no matter what we're doing. And that's the truth. Then again, I says, well, you know what? Maybe we'll just rely on the cards and let the cards tonight pick the word. And I wanted to experiment. Again, we were talking about experimenting and trying new things out, right? Because we should never settle that what we know in this moment or how do I explain it? That we don't take things for face value. We really should question everything. Lots of times we hand over our power, hand over our ability to make decisions to somebody else. That's a better way of doing it. Make it somebody else's fault if it blows up in our faces, right? Or if they trip over themselves and they cause a catastrophe that we could all just turn around and point our finger at somebody else, right? It was his fault, right? And one of the messages that I've gotten very, very strong in the past few years is that we have to understand that ignorance is no excuse, right? It is no excuse. I've still got the glare over my glasses. And, I could say, oh, well, that lighting didn't work. So we're going to go back to that. We're just going to stay with that. We're going to just stay with that lighting. And we're just going to sit here every single night because I do these lives Monday to Friday, right? 9 p.m. if you guys want to come and hang out with me, right? But no, I will continue to look for solutions. I will eventually get a new pair of glasses. If you guys don't know, I destroyed the reflective coating on my glasses on my trip. And so for the past week or two since I've been home, I've been trying to look up high so that it's not reflecting on me. I pulled out an ambiance light, right? A filming light, a ring, right? And I pulled that out tonight. So there's my solution. That will work. And that didn't work. And like I said, I could just sit back and go, oh well, that's just the way it's going to be until I get my new glasses, which could be tomorrow. It could be a couple of weeks, couple of months, right? It might be on my goal list, and it might be something I accomplished closer to the end of the year. And we haven't talked about my goal list. Not tonight because I haven't looked at it all week because I have been, right? I've done it, but I want to finalize it. And I also, right, I have been busy this week again. No excuses in that, because everything I do should fit well into my life. I shouldn't be overbearing myself, stressing myself out, making myself all wiry like I did yesterday in taking in so much information, right? So many truths, so many wires that I had to untangle yesterday. And you guys, if you didn't come into my live, you won't see the live, because after the live, I deleted it, because that's how punch drunk I was in my realizations, in my space in between my two ears. I was out of it yesterday. I was truly out of it. But I felt I needed to ground, so I came in and did my live anyway. But I was out of it. You would have thought, I don't drink, but you would have thought that I was drunk for sure. There was a few people in my lives last night, so if you were in last night on my live, I gotta send out some apologies out there, but maybe I don't have to, right? Because afterwards, after I deleted it, I felt bad a little bit, because I know it's in showing up. I know it's in my flows that the magic is released, right? And even if I don't get it in the moment, right? Maybe when I come back in and review my life, which I do every single day, I come in and I take the lesson for myself, because I understand when I come in, I'm in a flow, right? So I don't want to miss out. I don't want to miss out. So of course I'm coming in and taking the lesson for myself. Last night, oh my goodness, this is how fast can I get this off my channel, right? Before anybody else sees it. But for those that were here last night, maybe you got something out of it, because again, in that flow, even if it was punch drunk, it was punch drunk with all kinds of goodies. And I didn't even come in and watch it for myself. I just wanted it off my channel. So I don't know whether to apologize, right? In wiping out something that might have benefited somebody, or to be relieved in doing that. But getting back to the lights, right? I could just stop right there, right? And just say, okay, whatever, this is the way it is. Well, I've got a cover for that light fixture. So tomorrow, what are we going to do? I don't know how I'm going to do it, because it's still not going to be high enough. And you can't put a chair on the bed, right? It's unstable enough. But I'll figure something out, and I will get the cover back on that light fixture. The only reason it's not on the light fixture is because I had to change the light bulb. I couldn't reach high enough to get the shade back on. By my little fingertips, I was able to get it off, but to get it back on, you're gonna have to balance it on, or I'm gonna break the light shade, or it's gonna drop on my head, or something. But tomorrow we'll try something new, and I will continue to look for solutions. I might even try this light again, but in a different spot where it is not interfering, like this big light is on my eyes today. Grateful, grateful that it's not an emergency that I have to come up with that money, because my glasses are not cheap. It's just not like a regular prescription. It's like progressives and stigmatisms and farsighted and nearsighted in the other eye. It's a messed up prescription that cost me lots of money, but I will have to get them replaced. But I'm grateful that I took the oven. That's what I took the film off my glasses with, was with the oven cleaner. But at least I can see, because it was like wax paper. I have no idea how I destroyed that film. In my editing, I can see that very early on in my trip. And that was probably why I was bouncing and tripping over rocks and thinking I was going to fall into the lake and stuff constantly. It was just, I think, because again, I felt punch drunk by my experience, and I thought maybe, right? But it wasn't, because now I'm editing the video, and if you haven't seen my installments, I'm on my second video already. We did Silver Falls Provincial Park. I uploaded it yesterday. It's 1 hour and 45 minutes long. Melvin, if you want to go in and see my adventure video that I did yesterday, yeah, I'd say go in and take a look. And I would appreciate that too, even if you just pop in for a few minutes, right? Okay, so Melvin's here. Melvin says, as I said to Cindy last night, oh, Melvin was one of those people that were here last night. I was so out of it last night. I was so punch drunk from the lessons that I took all day yesterday. It was crazy town in my head for sure. And I deleted that podcast. So yesterday, officially, there was no podcast. Like I said, just a few people that happened to pop in yesterday. Okay, so here we go. Melvin says, as I said to Cindy last night, Canada is being screwed by the Liberals. I don't know what's going on. I went after you said that last night, Melvin. I didn't do research on it, but when I went into my news just for the headlines, just to keep up on what's going on in the world, I did hear the Prime Minister say something pretty amazing about the President of the United States. Is that what's agitating you tonight? Or yesterday even? Did I hit that one, or is it more, is there more to the story than that? There's always more to the story, isn't there? What did I say? I was going to come into my live tonight, and I was just going to grab a card and go right into the card, right? But also I was saying we could have those, either one of those two words, experience, right, or change. And they're both relevant and important words right now. I feel there's a lot. Let me have a sip of my juice box here. Oh, so good. Trying to take my fluids in because I'm feeling a little bit flushed, and it's because I went and I got my flu shots and my COVID shots today. I have been pretty religious every fall. I do go for my vaccines. I believe in the vaccines myself. Everybody, again, in choice, right? You get to make your choice in whether or not to have vaccines. That is a free choice. But we can see, right? Measles is back, or is it mumps? Measles or mumps? One of those ones are back. I've always gotten the two mixed up. Um, I do know that when I was 1 year old, I'm trailing off. When I was 1 year old, I almost died. I don't know whether it was mumps or measles that I had. It was one of the two. But I remember I came pretty close to dying. I remember my parents saying that they were pretty anxious about that, and that was when I was 1 year old. It seems lots of crazy town going on when I was just around that age, right? Okay, let's just go in and grab a card. And I hope whatever's going on with our government, Malvin, that it's going to sort itself out, right? That it's going to sort itself out. And remember, right? The minority is always going to hold the majority, you know, accountable for whatever they do. So if they just kind of go off the tracks in that, right? I'm certain that right that we'll all get together and we'll just get everything back on track, right? Not in a civil war kind of idea, but is that a civil war? This when the government takes over. I'm trying to think. Okay, let's just get off of that topic altogether. Okay, you guys, what we're going to do is we're just going to go into a card today. 54 powerful words. It will sort itself out when the Conservative Party wins a majority. Have the Conservatives been in the seat? I'm sure they have. Do they have a good leader, the Conservatives? I don't know too much about I don't know anything about the Conservatives platform, except conservative means kind of tight laced, maybe, right? A little bit more stricter, maybe a little bit more tighter in the budgets. This is what conservative, when you say the Conservatives, right? This is what comes to my mind. But yeah, I'm going to Google it. I did do some Googling in the politics. What did I Google? Because I was kind of curious about what you were talking about yesterday. But it was just a quick thing. And then this morning, when I went into my news just to get the headlines, I saw that our prime minister said something pretty amazing about Donald Trump. And then I thought, oh, that's what Melvin was talking about. And then, of course, something else distracted me, and I got into something else at that point. But you know what, Melvin? Tonight I'm going to do a little bit of Googling. Maybe me and you will talk politics one day, right? Maybe. It's about applying yourself. You can learn whatever you want to learn. If your curiosity, right? If you're not interested in it, you're not going to sit through it. You're not going to take it in. You definitely won't be an expert in it for sure. But, if you have some curiosity about the topic, right? That's a little bit of that sit down, pay attention, and yeah, I'll do that after my live show tonight. I'm gonna Google a little bit more specific and find out. I know you're being respectful. That when it comes to the grumbling and complaining and the politics and stuff, that I'm not a big fan of that. But I'm not a big fan because it's just not part of my brand. It's just not part of my intellect. It's right. My knowledge doesn't swing that way in any way because I'm not curious about it. I'm not interested in it. That I'm not spending a lot of time in it, but it seems I'm spending a little bit of time in it in this moment. So we're just going to get into the card tonight, you guys. Um, I will be editing my third video, started on Sunday. It will be uploaded on Wednesday. So if you want to come in, the next park that I'm going to is Erin Provincial Park in Ontario. And if you guys don't know, I go on a trip every September, and I document my trip. I take everybody along with me because, if it wasn't for you guys, right, that it's possible that I would feel that need to connect with Mother Nature, and I would feel that need to get out on the road. And I would still go, and I would probably still have an amazing time, but it might be a little bit lonely. At least when I'm filming, right? I feel like I have company. And it makes me happy to share my experience, right? That everybody contributes, even if in just being, right, a cheerleader and a spectator in my adventures. Okay, you guys, let's just get into the card already. This is the way it's been for me all week, all over the place. It's like putting me in an ice cream shop with choices of 100 different ice creams, and I don't know which flavor I want, right? I'm usually pretty decisive, but that's the feeling like it is that I'm just jumping from one choice of ice cream and then going, no, maybe not, let's try that one, and then imagining, oh, tiger, which came into my mind right now. Tiger was one of my favorite ice creams. Do you know what tiger ice cream is, Melvin? It's the orange and licorice ice cream. It's one of my favorites. I'm usually pretty plain when it comes to ice cream. I like the strawberry, I like the vanilla, I like the chocolate, right? But if I'm to go outside of it, it would have to be creamsicle ice cream, or it would have to be tiger, right? Okay, you guys still haven't pulled a card. What's up with the card? Okay, you guys, let's take a moment. Another sip of my juice box. Thank you, Malvin, for coming in and keeping me company tonight. I appreciate it. I always appreciate it. Okay, you guys, let's pull a card. It's going to be this one right here. If I can get it out by itself, and it's by itself. You guys are not going to believe it. Experience paired with attention offers up gifts. It's really funny because I just edited my Silver Falls video, and this was one of the cards that I pulled. 54 powerful words. And didn't I say I wanted to talk about experience, or I wanted to talk about change tonight? And so it's been dictated that we are going to talk about experience, right? When I first came into my live tonight, we were talking a little bit, that sometimes we follow the leader, right? That we hand over our ability to make decisions for ourselves. We hand over our safety quite often. We put it in somebody else's hand so that they can dictate and decide what is safe and unsafe for ourselves. For me, I have always been a free thinker. My whole life, I've been a free thinker. I'm so grateful that, in some of my relationships, there was that banter, that back and forth. So when I was going into the conversations, I could talk about anything and it be reflected back to me in different perspectives, depending on who you're talking with, right? But I butted heads quite often with others because of my own way of thinking. And my own way of thinking is derived specifically through my experiences. I grew up in a very dynamic family. Lots of us have grown up in a very dynamic family, and it makes us think differently, and it makes us feel differently, and it makes us see and understand the world differently, especially in when it's our experience and nobody else's experience, right? Nobody else's experience. And the first thing that comes to my mind, again, I have to talk about my mother. Me and my mother, we butted heads all the time. But I think, she wasn't interested in what I had to say, right? She wasn't interested in what I had in here, right? What I thought. It was her way or the highway. This is the way she she kept us in line that way, right? She kept us in line that way. But in butting heads with my mother, that's how I recognized that I was a different kind of person, that I saw things differently. I saw things differently when it concerned, my family, because my family didn't even see or feel or experience the things that I was experiencing, right? To my sisters, my mother was an angel, right? She was a hard worker, my mother, right? And she had to go through a lot with my father's gambling addiction. But my mother was very borderline, and she was not in control of her emotions. So, being dictated by what was going on in her own experiences in her life, she pushed that out, right? She pushed that out. And being right, you guys know, like I'm a scapegoat child. It's part of my story, and it is my experience, right? It is my experience. And my sisters did not have that experience. They had different experiences, right? Very different experiences. My sister Tracy was golden child. But you know what? Scapegoat, golden child, I'd have to say probably the scapegoat would be something that I would prefer to golden child, because there is so much responsibility in being golden child, because you're groomed that way. You're groomed to be a leader. You're groomed to be something special. You're groomed to be the matriarch at some point, if not in that moment, but somewheres in the future when your parents pass away, they're getting you ready, right? To step in and be the leader in the family, which is exactly what happened with my sister. She was groomed and she had that responsibility. And when my father passed away, she stepped in, and in her experience, right, she was leading the family, not just leading the family, she was taking care of everybody's safety. She was taking care of, well, for myself, right? I was frivolous. I was out for a good time. I was brought up scapegoat. I just wanted to make the best life for myself as I possibly could. I was treading water. I was in no shape to be capable of taking care of the family, right? I couldn't even hold on to a job. That was my experience in that. But when my father passed away and my sister came in and she took the reins of the family, she was magnificent in that role. She truly is. And even though she hasn't woken up to any ideas in this moment, that's not to say in the next lifetime that she won't wake up. Because I believe that, when she steps forward, oh my goodness, she's going to be magnificent in that role, because she's been groomed like that. Because I believe in epigenetics. I probably believe that she's been groomed that way for as many lifetimes as I've been scapegoated, right? And that's the truth. And, I am grateful that, right, even at waking up to some of these ideas in my 50s, that I'm able to tread some water, right? Make up for some lost time, some valuable, invaluable, right? Lost time. And, I have to say, right, that I have to apologize because I know that I probably could have come to the table sooner if I had had the inkling or the curiosity, right? I had the experience of maybe being the golden child, but because I butted heads, because I was such a truth teller, because I saw the world differently, because I experienced the world differently. I experienced the people and the souls in my life differently than everybody else. Not just my family, but everybody. Everybody loved my mother. And that relationship that I had with her was so strained. And it wasn't because I didn't try. Yes, I butted heads, but I butted heads with the truth, right? It wasn't like I was telling lies. It wasn't like I was out to get anybody, right? My father brought us up on quotes. Right, it was drilled into me, honor thy mother and thy father, right? My mother, in her entire life, never told me that she loved me, right? She never told any of the kids that she loved them. She never hugged them, never kissed them, and I don't believe she took an interest. If you know the story of Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, if you know her story in her relationships with her children, might be something interesting to Google in because it's a really amazing story. Because, Queen Victoria was extremely either very indifferent to her kids or she was very hard on her children, like she did not want to be a mother. My mother did not want to be a mother, but I couldn't understand why everybody thought she was such an amazing person, right? But I believe that it was the fact that she kept the family together, right? And however she did it, whether it was with influence or threats or manipulation or whatever, lies, because my mother, right? She lying is a trait that you need to pay attention to, right? Because somebody who consistently lies all the time, that says something about them. It says something about what's on the inside. And these were lessons that I learned when I was a little kid through my own experiences. It was nothing that I took in as a class or a lesson online. It wasn't something I read in a magazine or in an article or anything. It was just something I knew through my own experience. Is that word right here? Experience paired with attention offers up gifts. And that's what it was. It was in my attention. It was in my hypervigilance to stay safe in my own family, because it's just not even in my own family, but it just seemed like everywhere's that I was just not safe and nobody was going to stick up for me, right? My parents never even went to parent teacher meetings, like, right? Nobody was going to tell my parents how to raise their kids, right? And if it became a problem, well, my dad would just pick us up and move us somewhere else. I went to a lot of schools growing up. I understand change. Change was another word that I was wanting to talk about today. But isn't that neat? Change or experience. And then I pulled the card out of 54 words. I pulled this card experience. And I had a topic on experience, but when I come in and do my lives, it is the first perspective, the first thing that came to my mind. And I just went straight back to my childhood and into those experiences. And when I say, when you pair it with the attention, because lots of us have experiences, and because we hand over that power, we hand over that safety to somebody else, right? We don't give it any thought after the experience. It's over. It's done with. It's in somebody else's hands. It's in the past. It's history, right? We let it go and we move forward. But when you put your attention onto the experience, you can read into that, right? Truth always reveals itself. And, I think most people expect that we're just trudging through our lives, right? We're just trudging. Well, like I said yesterday, no, that live is not there anymore. But what I said yesterday is that, sometimes that when we get to work, we wonder, how did I get to work? Like I drove to work, but I don't even remember stopping for a coffee. I don't remember pulling up in my parking stall or coming into the building. And here I am sitting at my office desk, if you work in an office, right? And lots of times we have experiences, but we're just going through the motions and we're not paying attention. It's when we pay attention that those gifts, did I mention gifts, right? When we're paying attention, the gifts of understanding, the gifts of meeting somebody new, a gift of a new opportunity, a gift in a new landscape, right? A gift, right? New understandings. And this is what my experience was as a kid, right? I had to, in my hypervigilance, and hypervigilance is fairly common and more common today than in, right? Well, we're going to say the Gen X, and then what is it? The there's another one, then baby boomers. Like all of those, we all have different experiences in our generations, right? And we we pay attention because of the trauma. We pay attention because we're looking to stay safe. We're paying attention because we didn't hand our safety to somebody. We didn't hand our truth to somebody else. We didn't believe some people because they consistently did not tell the truth. So you don't know what to believe. And, when that trust is broken too, right? It's not very bright to hand it over and believe something that's not true, where you consistently have been shown the evidence that, what is being presented to you is not a truth. It's made to make you feel bad, make you feel guilty, make you feel shame, make you feel fear, make you feel stupid, make you feel ugly, right? This generation that we're in right now, these children are getting it the worst. Oh my goodness, right? Especially with the accessibility to some of these really dangerous drugs. And oh my goodness, I was walking home with my groceries today, and for the first time, I saw those people that are hunched over and super high on the fentanyl. I've never seen that. I've seen it online, but I've never seen it in person. And it was sad, right? I almost wanted to see if the person was okay, right? But it's not safe. And in my hypervigilance, right? And I'm not knocking it, right? It serves me well, my hypervigilance. I'm taking care of myself. Nobody else is taking care of me, right? That I have to take care of myself. That I just walked by these people without checking in on them. And people OD on that stuff all the time. But how would I known, right? Right? Because if I had not paid attention in that experience, I might have just walked up to him and said, tapped on the shoulder, "Are you okay?" And right? What if they're not okay? And I don't suspect they're even capable of jumping up really fast or anything. I probably would be able to get away pretty fast. But I can't be around that kind of stuff, right? Because that's somebody who is hurting beyond, like beyond, right? I know my own experience, and I know, right, that I'm not even close to being in that condition. So I couldn't even imagine what that person's experience in life was. And he was young too. He couldn't have been more than 23 or 24, 23, 24 years old. It was something, right? That was an experience, right? I paid attention. I didn't stop, right? Being hypervigilant in my own safety. But I paid attention in that because I had never, right? The curiosity. I'd never seen anything like that in real life. The kids these days are really having a hard time. Their experiences, when I compare them to my own experiences, right? Mine's like playing in the kids' playground. That's right. It's just, I'm not going to say fun and games because it wasn't fun and games, but right, I'm just trying to make the analogy of the comparison of what the kids are going through today compared to what they were going through while I was growing up. So it makes me curious to see. Hello, Kathy. Holy moly. It makes me curious. I said tonight when I came into my live that I wanted to talk about change or experience, and I got the word experience, right? But I was just talking about, you know, the kids these days in their experiences that they're having such a hard time, doubly, maybe triply, quadruply as hard as I could have ever, right? And I know in my own um what do you call that, residue of my experience, because I am very hyper vigilant about myself. You wouldn't know it because I make bad decisions sometimes. But then after I make these decisions, I sit and I wonder, I go, was that really a bad decision? Or is that a really good decision that in this moment it looks like it's a bad decision? And then the way it plays out, right? It might be the best decision I could have ever made, right? Maybe it saved me from making a stupid decision, making a stupid move that would just ruin me, ruin my brand, ruin the relationships that I built. But I'm really worried about these kids today, right? Because that's what's going to make the world crazy town, because these are our future leaders. These kids are the kids that are going to make those decisions, whether there's funding for the old folks, if there's housing, if there's care, right? If somebody's handicapped, is somebody going to care, right? Because lots of times these kids grow up because nobody cared for them, or they had grown up in um, a bad relationship within their own family where they had traumatic experiences, that maybe they would grow up and not care for the elderly, because the elderly were once the caregivers and the guardians of these children that become adults, and they don't want to do anything, right? They treat the generation before them as the enemy, right? And I can see that. I can easily see the crazy town. I can see the emotional issues. And that's why it's so important for us to talk about our emotions and talk about our experiences, and not to hand that safety to somebody else, not to hand out that decision making to somebody else, not to make one person the be all to end all as the great leader, and we all follow that person's perspective. That we should all have the experience of, right, experiencing our own lives, right? And paying attention to those experiences, because that's where the gifts are, right? That's where the lessons are. That's where the hope. Oh, that's yeah, that's where the hope is. That's where the possibility that we can do some good, that through our experience, right? We pay attention. We go, oh my goodness, that didn't work. Oh my goodness, we did such a bad job in that. Oh my goodness, did I hurt them? Right? Right? Or, oh my goodness, I'm so hurt by that. I never want anybody else to ever go through that experience again. And then the next thing you know, we are making good decisions, right? That we are taking care of each other, right? Taking care of each other, not just saying, okay, right? As a small child, we don't have a choice, right? Our guardianship and our parentage, we don't get a say in that, right? So I am grateful that I was born, right? And I am grateful that I had people in my life who cared for me and loved me, right? So it made the difficult and the scary and the heartbreaking part of it sometimes bearable, right? And I attribute that to my father, right? I believe his deepness has been dragging me along, right? For lifetimes after lifetimes, right? Because of that care, right? And and it's in even in his own experience. Oh my goodness, this is hard, because this is part of the big lessons that I had today, right? In holding people accountable for their decisions. But lots of times when we're going to stop, we're going to send some good cheer, right? Get to your destination, knock on that door, and let it be a false alarm. You can just turn around and go right back to the fire station. I live behind the fire station. This happens all the time. But these were the lessons that I was having today, right? These were the questions that I was delving delving in deep into, and it's still something I am mulling over, and right, it might take me, sometimes it's just instant and I just take it in and oh, that's, oh really, and then on to the next lesson. But sometimes, like I said, it's scary, heartbreaking, confusing, frustrating, maddening, even. And then that's when we have to get control of our own emotions, right? Unbelievable sometimes. Is believability an emotion? No, it's a choice. Believability is a choice, for sure. It is a feeling. It offers up a feeling, right? Right? It offers up a feeling, but believing is truly a choice. And I believe in myself. That doesn't mean that, all my ducks are in a row, that I have the answer for everything. I'm bumbling along just like everybody else is, but I'm paying attention to my experience, right? And, when you pay attention, those gifts and lessons and realizations, right? They're all coughed up. They are always coughed up. Maybe not in that exact moment, but if you follow suit and you follow your curiosity, right? It will definitely lead you somewheres. My whole experience in my life has been as an experiencer. I refer to myself as a trail cam, like I was born just to be a trail cam, right? Just to pay attention, just to, right? Never, right? I revel in my experiences too, my good experiences. When I went off this September, the couple of weeks ago, I reveled in my park explorers. Oh my goodness. I just, in those experiences, I reveled in that. But lots of times, right, we get kind of off track that way, and we end up experiencing things that aren't so fun, right? That offer up gifts out of the pain, right? Out of the realizations, out of the heartbreak, out of the lies, right? Out of the lies, and out of the butting heads, right? Because you're just not paying attention to the experience, you're paying attention to everything in the vicinity of that experience, where you are, who you're with, what the experience is, and the aftermath, cause and effect, right? Because that experience that I had as a kid, as that trail cam, as that one that was butting up with the lies and butting heads with different ideas, that of course, right, if they're different, somebody is going to press their own um, uh, perspectives on you. And if you don't swallow that, well, again, it could be painful, frustrating, right? Shameful. Could feel guilt in that. These are tools. These are tools, and I guess, I'd have to say it is in my own experience that made it possible right now that I can have the the experience of having this conversation with people and be able to be the evidence in that, because I went through those experiences. I paid attention in those experiences. And in those experiences, they offered up the gifts, many gifts, but the one of them being the hypervigilance, right? Which was my safety, right? And the safety of the people that I cared for, right? Whether that was my family, my coworkers, my friends, my neighbors, right? And and it's not something really that I've worked on, right? I know there are lots of relaxation tools, but I don't want to relax in my hypervigilance, right? I turn my head for a second, right? Those squirrels are going to have my peanut butter jar open. That's funny. You guys, experience paid with attention offers up gifts. Experiment with that, you guys. There's a good one, right? Because we have experiences every single day. If we can just spend one day, right? Whether you do it right off the hop, you do it tomorrow, or you wait until your day's off and or designated day to do it, just pay attention to all your experiences, your conversations, your landscapes, the catastrophes, the good things that come into your life, what people are saying to you, right? And pay attention to that and see what it offers up to you. That's a good one. That's not what I wanted to talk about tonight when I said that I wanted the word change or experience. It was something else. But that's what came out. So that's what we got tonight. Experience paid with attention offers up gifts. There we go. I got the live done. Not as bad as yesterday. Like I said, I apologize for deleting that live, but I was so punch drunk by my day yesterday. I just couldn't keep it together in my life, right? And I should have just left it up because it is in my experience that becomes a lesson for somebody else or an experience for somebody else or the evidence for somebody else. And that's what I feel bad about. Okay, you guys, you have a great night. That's my good cheer. See you tomorrow.